Diana Ankudinova is back on my channel with an award-winning film called The Quiet Outpost, and she's singing The Quiet Outpost's theme tune to that film. It's poignant, it's moving, it's heart-wrenching, and the film itself caused a stir in its time, and it's a historical drama. A Russian novelist, and I'm going to hopefully say this correctly, but look in the description because in English it will be spelt properly. Valery Povyev's film. I hope I've said, you can correct me, all the fans, because I know you will. You can help me out. Is the adaptation of a novel of the same name. Now, it takes place in the Russian border, and the guards, there's a scenario, the picture tells us about the Russian outpost called Quiet. So that's where it originates from, the Quiet, where Russian border guards serve, guarding the borders of the Republic from the penetration at the time of bad elements from the neighbouring Afghanistan into its territory. The action takes place in the 90s of the century, when a civil war was raging in Afghanistan and Tazikhan, and Russian border guards bravely and heroically carried out their service far from home. Well, I know that they're brave, Russian soldiers, because we have World War II to thank for the peace in Europe because of the Russians that lost their lives, nearly 2 million of them, and defeated the Germans. But then so did the weather. My recollection of history, so did the weather, because it turned into the snow, which the Russian soldiers were able for, and the Germans never experienced. So half of them froze to death, but still a big, huge loss of life, and always a thank you to the Russian soldiers for what they did. When we come into 2025, people forget history in a very arrogant, ignorant way, but that's them. I'm Irish. I come from a war-torn country, and I have empathy on both sides. But back to this. There was that war raging between Afghanistan, as I said, and Tazikhan, and Russian border guards bravely and heroically carried out their service far from home, hence the lyrics of the song. And we will see sometimes difficult relationships in the film between our guy, well, when I say our guys, your guys, the Russians, and the local residents, among whom there are many different people, and the life and the moods of the border guards, and of course love, with or without it. And finally, the legendary battle at the outpost, when Russian soldiers and officers stood up in battle against the vastly superior forces of Afghan and Tajik militants, although they paid a high price for it. In an hour and a half, the film reveals the time and the place where everything happened. It was not without drawbacks, and although it's clear that the budget was not the largest in the production of the film, the ending is predictable, but it still catches on to the living, to the heartstrings, to the minds, to the souls of those watching, and leaves you with an emptiness that just can't be explained in words. Why, everybody? Because I watched it. There you go. Before I did this video, I said I'm going to seek this out through a Russian friend of mine. And what he did for me in Russia, in Moscow where he lives, is he played the film, and I watched it whilst he was cooking in the background with his wife and 2 children, and I just sat and I watched, and I got a feel for the film. And it's one of purgatory. It's one about Thundergates, and there was Captain Panoff and Senior Assign Gritskuk. I just hope I've said justice to the names, but if not, watch it. And whilst it was all being played in Russian, and I have no idea about Russian, I was captivated by the scenes, the poignancy, and the move, just the sense of we've all been there in life, and that outpost where people in the world have been against us, but just in a different place, in a different scenario. It really was true to life in many, many ways, and I related just to the scenes. And my friend played it to me simply because he wanted me to have a sense of what it was about. So I thank him for that. Back to The Quiet Outpost and what it says in Wikipedia. Quiet Outpost is a Russian war drama film I've just described, telling of that Afghan and Tajik militants with the Russian army, which occurred at the 12th border outpost of Moscow, I forgot to mention that, and detachment in the Republic. Diana Ankudinova was at an award night, Nika Film Awards, and she sang Quiet Outpost. I'm going to briefly, and this is how I'm going to do this, I'm going to read the lyrics in English, so English people can then, when they listen to the song in Russian, have an appreciation for the poignancy of what she's singing, and then come back and I will give you my fresh, brief analysis of what I think the lyrics are about. It begins, I'm not coming soon, if ever to my home in the flesh or as a dream. Waiting carries so much sadness, almost as much as demise. Something happened and we've hit a rift. Living the way it was before this shift seems like paradise to us, but we can never make it to return back. Then we ran barefoot and sloppy, playing rainbows, coloured strings in a sunny blue. Now slanted rains are falling and they pass my body through. Quickly, how quickly it all passed. This wound hurts, but only the surface. And the one who waited for a long time will hug and never let you go. Something happened and we've hit a rift, living the way it was before. Something happened and we've hit a rift, living the way it was this shift. Seems like paradise to us, but we can never make it to return back. Powerful drama, powerful film, powerful images of an outpost. That's why it's called Quiet. And the lyrics reflect that quietness, that demise, that emptiness, that feeling of loneliness. And how many people have stood at that quiet post? Only the guards will know. Not even historians, I fear, will reveal the accurate number of people that lost their lives at that post that was reflected in the film. Russian soldiers these days in 2024 have a bad reputation because of misunderstandings by the West. I've always appreciated and thanked the freedom we have because of the deaths and the lives that were sacrificed in World War II because of Russian soldiers. So for me to listen to this song, I'm going to probably get emotional. And that will reflect in how I speak after we've listened to Diana Ankudinova, a person that I have supported for many years now on my channel. I'm not one of these ones looking for clicks or baits or people to like. I've always supported her. And the reason I've always supported her is for her wonderful delivery of songs like this. Let's sit back, take a listen, and I'll come back with a very brief summary.
Слова Олега Митяева, песня из кинофильма «Тихая застава». Исполняет Диана Анкудинова.
Вернусь теперь не скоро, да вернусь ли наяву или во сне? Сколько в ожидании грусти, как в прощании насовсем. Края мы попали. все, что было до и никогда уже к нам больше не вернется. Бегали босые в теплой синей, радуг струнами звеня. А теперь дожди косые все навылет сквозь меня. Обнимет тот, кто долго ждет нас и больше не отпустит. Краем мы попали на разлом, раем нам пока
I actually think I want to cut out the clapping, because even though the clapping is in recognition of those that were lost, I just want to carry on that poignant feeling of it's quite obvious the relatives of those that were shown on the screen behind Diana were film directors and people associated in the film industry in Russia, and that was their family in the audience, and everybody stood up in almost what we say in Europe here, the 3 minutes of prayer. In a silent vigil they stood. Tears were shed, but almost not a pin drop could be heard, only the beauty and delivery of Diana's voice. Very, very moving. And if people were wondering what the film and awards song was about, It's the Nika Film Awards, and this would be the equivalent of the Oscars, the American Film Academy Award, or it would be, the Oscars. And they have gilded statuettes with winged ancient Greek goddess of victory depicted in the statues. And that was the song by Diana, Quiet Outpost, from the same film, named the same. Absolutely stunning. I read out in English the lyrics before because I felt it justified knowing what the song was about. In the first verse it says, "I'm not coming soon, if ever to my home in the flesh or as a dream. Waiting carries so much sadness, almost as much as demise." And it continues, "Something happened as we've hit a rift. Living the way it was before this shift seems like paradise to us, but we can never make it to return back." It reminds me, straight away I get an image of a soldier at a quiet post, as I've explained before, and reflecting on what we take for granted, which is the safety of our homes, the food on our table, the love of the loved ones around us, the warm fire in the background, all those wonderful things we take for granted. And isn't it amazing how many people complain about life? And yet here's a soldier standing, protecting the territory from the militants, and doing it on behalf of the Russian people, not looking for glory or not looking for being a hero, but doing it out of pride, doing it to keep his family and generations of his family safe and protected for generations to come. And that shift was a lonely, long one. Think about it, everybody. If you're on your own at an outpost, situated, knowing that the next bullet could be for you, and you're standing there on your own in all weathers, that's a long mental shift that has an awful effect on the physical, because our mental does control the physical. And then when you reflect, you resolve everything in your mind by saying, I know I won't come back, because too many who have stood here in my shoes before me never returned. So they almost resolved the fact that they're standing there never to be returned. Easy targets for the militants, but still willing to put their lives down. And millions did, to protect the borderlines of Russia. Then we ran barefoot, it continues, and sloppy, playing rainbows, coloured strings in bluey blue. Now slanted rains are falling, and they pass my body through. That's the weather conditions, everybody, the coldness of thought that they ponder on and think about and digest. They ingest their thoughts, they digest their thoughts, they spit out their thoughts in all weathers. In a desolate place when nobody thinks about them, only their loved ones. Sunny blue, rain, it talks. So their bodies are they stand in all weathers. So imagine they're saturated with the rain, and then the sun warms them. If they're fortuitous enough to be around a time or a season at the quiet post where the weather would warm them, because if it's winter, they stand in the cold, and if the rain and the snow has frozen their body, they've still to remain there, loyally. And then it talks about quickly how it all passed. The wound hurts, but only the surface. And the one who waited for a long time will hug and never let you go. In other words, they'll see their duties through, and if God is on their side, their life will be spared to return home to hug their loved ones. And all the wounds and bullet wounds and frostbites and mental wounds will all be healed when they get that hug. It finishes in something happened and we've hit a rift, living in the way it was before. Something happened and we've hit a rift, living the way as it was before this shift. So it repeats itself. It's almost like a chant of when you think about something And it's like written in your soul. It's no longer in your heart or in your brain. It's in your soul, written in your soul. And it's everything that you see with the eyes, everything that you feel with your heart is gone. It's the soul that keeps you alive. It's that yearning to see it through for the goodness, not of mankind, but of the family and honour of the country. Standing in that quiet outpost is tough because it says, living the way it was before the shift seems like paradise. Yes, all the things we took for granted at home, the food on the table, the warm hugs, all of that we never appreciated, was pure paradise. No matter how little money was given up compared to the isolation, the desolation, the unprecedented isolation of being at that quiet post by yourself with those long shifts. And then it talks to us, we can never make it to return back, always resolving themselves with, they know that those people who stood before never did make it back. But there's always hope. And standing there, they never did give up hope. When Diana sung the song, and those that have died in the industry, their photographs came up behind, the images came up behind her, and the family all stood up, family after family, relative, friends of those people that were being shown in the video behind Diana. It's a reflection of and testament to their creativity and how it carries on generation after generation after generation. 2011 this film was made. In 2025 an Irishman called CC from Europop Music, reviewing a video, watched it online through a Russian friend just to get the images and the feelings of what these lyrics were going to be about. Now the lyrics could be totally about something else, everybody. But when I watched the images and I didn't understand your language, Russian, and I absorbed what those soldiers were going through each day, long shifts, isolation, and possible death at every waking moment, a bullet that will finish everything. I too, like the lyrics, thought about paradise. And because of the film, I actually appreciate now my surroundings more than I ever did. And I hope you do too. We only have one life. We have a short life. And I hope mine is never at a quiet post, but it's always front of the camera, front of the microphone, talking about wonderful songs, wonderful performers, and wonderful films like this. Rest in peace to all those filmmakers that were shown in the video, and I'll talk to you all soon. And of course, as always, thank you for listening.